Good morning, Slow Money Blues Live Nation. It's yours truly once again. Congratulations for taking a first step to your Slow Money Blues. My name is Doug, retired U.S. Marine, two-time combat veteran turned entrepreneur at your service. Today's episode is entitled The Storms of Life. It's entitled The Storms of Life. So we're going to be talking about three important topics today, or three main points today that we're going to talk about. But before we get started, we always have to pay the bills. And also, did you say your morning mission mantra today? Did you stand in front of the mirror? Did you say, hey, look, I, Doug, take 100% responsibility and accountability for my life and actions. I refuse to blame others. If I do, I give away all of my power, authority, and power given me by God. Well, if you didn't, it's your opportunity to do it now. You can do it while I'm actually paying the bills. Today's sponsors are 911cashnow.com and bignetgroup.com. When emergencies happen and you need cash fast, visit 911 Cash Now and get up to $2,500 in as little as 24 hours. You must be 18 years or older. Terms and conditions do apply. Now, does your brand need a refresh? Visit bignetgroup.com to get a free 30-minute consultation. No purchase or a credit card required. Building brands that connect the world. So I don't know how your 22 started off, but mine started off with a bang, which is exactly what inspired me and motivated me to write this particular episode entitled Storms of Life 2022. So this is a fitting poll question. Are you prepared for an unseen emergency? You can actually take our poll question on Facebook and Twitter. You can also take it on our website. And also it'll be in the show notes. So that's really, really cool. Now let's hop back into our episode and hear exactly how we got here. Have you ever been super excited to do something and then something happened that almost derailed it? Well, you're not alone because it just happened to me and my family and everybody living in the DMV. The first winter storm of 2022 left us and thousands of families and hundreds of businesses literally without power for several days. So what did I do and what did all types of other people do? What did business owners do? Well, let's get personal. For me, years ago, while I was on active duty in the Marine Corps, I attended cold weather training and I learned how to ski, snowshoe, bathe, cook, and sleep in below freezing temperatures for 3 entire months. When I tell you it was cold, it was very cold. Went to Bridgeport, California to learn how to train and survive in snow. Then we went to La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is super cold, and it was in the dead of winter. And then we finally concluded by going to Norway. And that's where we actually implemented everything that we learned how to survive in the cold weather elements. So when it was all said and done, though, didn't even realize that I lost 20 pounds, but this is the one thing, I survived. So these are the main points that we want to cover today. What do you do before a storm? What do you do in a storm? And then what do you do after the storm? Those are the three things that we want to talk about. And I relate them back to the storm we just had at the beginning of 2022. It seems like this could have even been entitled The Perfect Storm. The reason that it could have been entitled The Perfect Storm is because people were traveling after the New Year holiday. And a lot of people in the DMV were probably saying, look, I just want to get back to Pennsylvania. I want to get back to Delaware. I want to get back to New Jersey. Or if they were going south, they were saying, hey, look, I want to get back to South Carolina, North Carolina, to Georgia, and all of the states running up and down the East Coast. And the only corridor that exists to get you really from the tip of the Northeast all the way down to the Southeast is going to be I-95. Well, this was the dilemma. It wasn't that I don't think that people even prepared. What I really believe happened was that the storm moved so fast that it caught many people off guard. So all of those people that typically, get on the road early in the morning, the storm just basically was moving faster than them. And it was a huge storm that dumped tons of snow and left literally, like I said, thousands of people stranded on the I-95 corridor. So what do you do before the storm? Well, it's very, very simple. It's prepare. So prior literally to us going to do our major exercise in Norway, what we did is we spent 30 days literally in the cold weather. When I say the cold weather, I'm not talking about like inside some building or inside like a, some tent. We were outside in the elements where we learned how to bathe, we learned how to cook, we learned how to build like a snow shelter in cold weather where you were just outside, it was just you and the elements. So the first thing you have to do is you must prepare. You cannot wait until the storm happens and then say, oh, what am I going to do? So let's get back into like a more civilized society. What are some of the things that you probably want to do just in life? Well, if your power goes off, you might want to make sure you have some flashlights. You might want to make sure that you have plenty of batteries. You might want to make sure that you have like a sleeping bag or blankets to keep you warm. If you have a fireplace, you might want to make sure that you have wood. If it's a wood burning fireplace, and if it's a gas burning fireplace, you might want to know how to operate it, because several people in our community had gas fireplaces and didn't even know. Some people didn't even know that, hey, guess what? Because I have a gas stovetop, I can actually just turn it on and use like a little igniter and light it, and then you can actually have warm food. You might want to also understand that, guess what? Because it's so cold outside, you can actually save your food by putting it outside. So these are just some of the things. So what do? You just simply prepare. Let's get personal about your business though. What do you do when faced with a crisis with your business? Like if you have an interruption or something like that, and you say, oh my goodness, normally at this time of the year, we have a sale that's starting because it's the beginning of the year, and our revenue is up about this much, and month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, we're supposed to have this. Well, if you had an interruption in your business operations, if you have business insurance, guess what? You can insure yourself against something, a loss like that. And this is out of your control because this is the weather, this is Mother Nature. I will tell you, if you do get business insurance and you do have a business interruption, make sure that you don't have a clause in there for things like natural man-made. So look very, very closely at your policy. So now, what do you do in the storm? The first thing you do is remain calm and don't panic. So many people were panicking, and people were trying to, in the storm, they're like, oh my goodness, I got to run out to the store. I got to get back. I got to get all of these things that I don't have, for example, like candles, like flashlights, like battery, like food, like extra water. These are all the things that you're supposed to do before the storm, but this is what they were doing in the storm. Well, while we were in the storm, it was very simple. When the storm began to come and I saw how rapid the snowfall was occurring, what I did is I went calmly upstairs. I put on all of my cold weather attire. I went out to my shed. I got my snowblower. I got my shovels, and I had my salt mixture that I could lay down after I shoveled the snow. I put all that stuff into the garage, came back into the house, and I just watched and I monitored it, and I just remained calm. And then at roughly about somewhere between 8:30 and 9 p.m. a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the power went out. Prior to that, we started having, rolling power outages where the power would flick on and flick off. And then it finally went off, but none of us panicked. We were like, okay, we have a large water heater. Hey, look, time to go take a shower. And just kind of monitor everything and just kind of watch. And we start looking at our smart devices. And also, one of the things I did prior to, because I knew that the storm was going to come, is I filled up my vehicle. And that vehicle served as a power source as well as a heating source for our smart device, as well as giving us some shelter if it got too cold and we couldn't get out. And believe you me, no one could really get out, although a lot of people did attempt to get out of our community. And that's why we had a super log jam on I-95 for 2.5 days. For two and a half days. So you remain calm, but the only way you can really remain calm is by actually preparing. And so that's what we did. And so as we went into day one and the day two of the power outage, we just simply, we were like, just hunkering down, making sure that we could cook, we could stay warm, we could stay cleansed, and just monitoring what was going on. And all the while, after the storm had gone over, we got out and we started shoveling and removing the snow in stages and in phases. Because guess what? Although Doug did prepare. What I didn't prepare for was my snowblower not working, but I did have a backup in those shovels, so I had to use, some good old fashioned strength just to move the snow. My daughter was a real trooper. She came out and she helped, and we got it knocked out. And before long, after the snow blew by, all of our neighbors were out. We were all just shoveling snow and trying to help each other, encourage each other. So we had a really, really good time. And everybody was coming out like, hey, look, do you need this or do you need that? So community, having a network really helps also. So just like in your personal life, in your business life, when you're in a storm, make sure that you use all the resources at your disposal, which hopefully those are some of the relationships that you have with other business owners. Matter of fact, if you could, you probably want to let your customer base know that, hey, look, we're going to be closed. Don't come out because we don't have any power either. And some businesses did that and some businesses didn't do it because some just didn't have power to do it. But that's why you make sure that you have some type of backup power source. And it's really easy if you just use your smart device, or if you have a laptop and you go in your car and you hook it to your smart device as a hotspot, and you're good to go. So what you want to do is you want to remain calm in the storm. And this is the final point that I want to make. What do you do after the storm? Well, it's really easy. You assess, regroup, and then begin to execute again. It's a really simple acronym. It's called R. You assess, you regroup, and you execute. It's really, really simple. And that's all we did. So on the third day of our power being out, we're like, okay, hey, we survived another night. We got up and we were like, hey, what are we going to do today? I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being really cold and going into the car and warming up. I was like, hey, why don't we go out to lunch, and maybe by the time we get back, maybe the power will be on. So, and by this time, the streets were clear enough that we could actually get out, and the power had been restored to the local business and stuff like that. So we went out, filled up our tanks. The gas stations were an absolute madhouse. Everyone was trying to get gas. So we got our gas, and then we went to, one of our restaurants. Come to find out that restaurant had been closed for a couple of days and they had just opened. So we got there, we sat at the bar, we had a great meal. And oh, by the way, this is the bonus. When we were out getting our gas prior to going to the restaurant, guess what? We saw our neighbor who that we've spent time with and gone to dinner with and broke bread with. And they said, hey, look, man, the power's back on. I said, that power wants to come on right after we left, probably about 5 or 10 minutes after we left. But hey, look, we came back home. It was like nothing ever happened. It was like all of the house was warm. Our dog was like, yay, I'm happy you were back. And it was great. And we just put everything back to normal, because by that time, the streets were clear enough that, you could get in and get out. And that was it. We assessed, we regrouped, we executed. I said, okay, well, some of the food that we actually did have, we didn't feel safe about eating it. So what we did, we just threw it all away. And the very next day, I went out and I just resupplied our food. Well, went out and shopped, got some more food, and everything was great. It was good to go and good. But what do we also do? We also said, you know what? We didn't have a heating source. So what we did is we purchased some indoor propane heating tanks, which will keep your house super duper warm. We purchased them on Amazon, just a shout out. And we that was one of the things that we actually learned when we were actually assessing and regrouping and executing and getting everything back online. Hey, look, we need to have a heating source in our home because we don't have a fireplace. Because in our previous homes, although we had a fireplace, we never used them. So I was like, why do we need a fireplace? Well, guess what? A fireplace does come in handy if your power goes out for several days in the middle of winter. So what are the takeaways? Well, if you want to have like something super duper easy as, what do you do before a storm? What do you do in a storm? What do you do after a storm? Use the 7 Ps. Prior proper planning prevents poor performance. And if you heard a previous episode, I talked actually about the 7 Ps of business. Well, you can apply that. You can apply that formula to almost anything, and it works 100% of the time. And this is what it'll do. It'll ensure that you and your family and your business are never unprepared. And what is your homework? Great question. Because this is what's amazing. After this crisis, I went out in the marketplace like I always do, and I asked questions. I was like, hey, look. One, I was asking people, is your power restored? Because a lot of people power was out a lot longer than ours. But then I also asked people like, hey, look, do you have an emergency plan? And a lot of people's like, no. And I was like, well, hey, who is your service provider? Some people didn't know their service provider because they weren't the person who actually managed the finances for the household. I was like, wow. So I said, that means a lot of people probably don't have an emergency plan. So this is what I want you to do. This is your homework. If you don't have a plan, create a crisis management plan if you don't have one. And if you do have one, what I want you to do is review it to ensure it remains updated. You should have a crisis management plan for your personal dealings as well as for your business. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. This is what I want you to do. As always, tell anyone you know suffering from slow money blues to tune in each Tuesday from 9:30 to 10 a.m. You can follow, like, and share us at Slow Money Blues on all social media. And also, don't forget to join our private Facebook group. Until next time, continue to build, launch, and grow your very own personal freedom success system. My name is Doug, and I will see you next time. Bye.